Yesterday, we learnt that McDonald's are raising the price of their main burger for the first time in over 14 years. Now the price of the nation's favourite dish, fish and chips, though some people say it's curry, is expected to go up to £11.50. That's a massive 35% rise from the average of £8.50 just a year ago. Fish and chip shops are some of the hardest hit by this cost of living crisis because of soaring energy bills and rising inflation, with predictions that half of our beloved chippies could close down soon. And it's not just the cost of living crisis battering the industry. They face soaring prices of their ingredients, of course, with the cost of cooking oil almost tripling, not to mention the government's new tax on seafood imported from Russia is having a devastating impact on our fish and chip shops. Well, we've got George Morey from Knight's Fish Restaurant with us today. He manages one of the oldest fish and chip shops in the country. Thanks for joining us, George. And Jasmine Birtles, our regular moneymagpie.com economist, is still with us. George, we've talked a lot here on The Money about fish and chip shops and the problems that they're having. It's no surprise, is it, that your prices are rising? And from what I know, talking to the fish and chip shops in my local town, you're trying really hard not to pass on those rises in your costs, but you haven't really got a choice.
No, sadly, absolutely not. No, we try and find a balance. You know, we don't want to directly affect our customers and their expenditures because something simple, you know, a comfort food, a traditional staple of fish and chips is even affected in these days. It's quite, you know, it's not ideal for anybody. But, you know, when you look at the cost increases that we have to face, you know, our price increases are actually quite menial because, you know, the likes of fish over the past year has gone up 60%. Our fat is up 100%. You know, the ingredients we use in the batter, you know, they're rising as we go on, and even potatoes have seen increases over the past few months. So we do try and find that balance, but sadly we have to, you know, meet in the middle somewhere sometimes.
Really big increases in the cost of your inputs, George, as you say. Are you seeing demand stalling? Are you seeing that people just can't afford to pay, in some cases, £11.50, £12 for cod and chips, as opposed to £8 or £9 just a year ago?
Yes. So, you know, you do notice customers' expenditures are changing. People are heading for different options, you know, whereas most customers enjoy fish and chips on a Friday night, you might find them ordering a sausage instead. I think in the long run, you know, the effect will be noticeable, but we're a resilient industry. We are constantly looking at options, and I'm sure most other fish and chip shops are, where we can replace these items that are going up too much for us to allow, you know, a price increase that the customer definitely wouldn't pay. So, you know, we can look at other species of fish, for example, and many shops out there at the moment are doing so.
And with all respect, you know, your business model, fish and chips, is about volume, isn't it? It's not about margin. You're not like with huge respect, you're not a refined restaurant where you're making your margin on bottles of wine and the service and the ambiance and the decor and so on. It's about piling them high and selling them cheap, isn't it? That's what fish and chips is about, and that's one reason we love it the way we do. I mean, are you worried about your business, George?
I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be long in the line of a family business that's been around for 113 years, and some of my, you know, ancestors are up here on the wall and whatnot. They've obviously been through wars, they've been through recessions and various other problems, and we've always come out surviving, you know. And whereas, like you mentioned, fish and chips as comfort food, as quite a hefty meal, the industry has always tried its best to make itself also a healthy choice as well. So this is an avenue that we pursue as an industry in itself, is that we are one of the healthiest takeaways out there. And, you know, we use this to our advantage in order to, you know, keep the customers coming in, to ensure that they're not feeling like, you know, the amount of food they're having is, you know, overwhelming. It's a mixture of things that we're all trying to tackle, really.
Jasmine, George Morey there, Knight's Fish Restaurant. I mean, it is an institution in Glastonbury. They've been around for a long time. But how about if you're a first-generation fish and chip shop? You don't own your shop. You got, rent to pay, as well as business rates, as well as corporation tax, as well as, doubling the price of fish, tripling the cost of your cooking oil. This is really tough, isn't it?
It is tough, and it doesn't help that people like me are saying to consumers, oh, hold back your spending, because I'm always aware of this. I'm saying to the individuals, hold back, but this is not helping business. And the other problem that they have is, as you've pointed out, as we found, the producer price index is up about 20%, which is, more than double actual, our
And that
CPI
number
inflation.
becomes clear, the reason it is above 20%, when you listen to the likes of George talking about what he has to buy in order to keep his fish shop up and running.
Well, quite. And I've been talking to farmers as well. I'm doing that more and more at the moment. And they're saying that actually the potato harvest is not great this year, of course, largely because of the heat. So that's actually going to be a problem, particularly for fish and chips, but also for other eateries.
George, let's give you the final word on this. What's the end game here? What happens if lots of our fish and chip shops close? Are you concerned they might not reopen?
Well, it's exactly what you say it is. The small independent and new startups, and even sometimes small, well-established businesses suffer the most. If you do not have a tourist spot and, particularly reliable trade throughout the year, you will notice this winter will be a real heavy impact, as we listen into the news and hear that energy could go up even further, the likes of which fish and chip shops rely on so heavily, absolute crazy amounts of gas, the fryers that we use, unfortunately, some old ranges use a lot more. And, these old, well-established businesses can't afford to pump the gas that these fryers demand. But as a whole, we're a resilient industry. I imagine hopefully we can hold on. But sadly, like with everything, the costs will go up and fish and chips won't be quite the affordable meal it always was.
Well, George, it's great to talk to you. All the best for your business. George Morey there of Knight's Fish Restaurant, Somerset's finest.